If you want to continue to follow our adventure, click subscribe. So you don't miss anything, click the bell notification. I made a video the other day where I talked about, our campgrounds are getting destroyed by people. Trash and tearing it up and breaking the rules. No matter where you go, it's there. Just no matter where you go. Fires right there. I mean, they put a fire right here next to the boat dock. It happens everywhere we go. In that video, I suggested that, if you get a chance to go volunteer and go around and pick things up, I do it all the time. I'll pick up that piece of trash. See, just trash everywhere. There. When I'm at a campground, I go pick up the trash. And I mentioned in Florida that I felt like I was the campsite host, because every day I would just go around picking up trash and cleaning the bathroom. I suggested that at Little House on the Road community come together and do our best to help keep these places clean. One person even suggested, well, even if you can't make it out to the national forests and national parks, maybe you could go to your city park and clean those up. And I agree with that. It's just terrible how people just treat everything like garbage. And then the wildlife gets hurt. And somebody mentioned that, people cut down trees in the national forest for campfires and stuff. And I've seen that. I've seen people come out with chainsaws and cut down cedar trees. And look at all these cedar trees right here. Speaking of cedar trees. Now, the other type of video I like to make is videos where I talk about your definition of freedom. In those videos, I talk about, okay, is living this lifestyle the true measure of freedom? Can you possibly be free? I still have to work. So does work constitute as freedom? Going out and starting a generator every day, having to find my own water, is that freedom? And then people will say, hey Rob, you absolutely have the true freedom. The only kind of freedom that you really can have in the United States is being a nomad. Going from campsite to campsite, seeing the country, not having to report to anybody. Yet I argue that not really. I mean, in a stick and brick, you never have a police officer coming to the door and knocking on you just to check, make sure you got your driver's license and that you're not doing anything without a warrant. But in a national forest, they don't need a warrant. As a matter of fact, when I was in Florida, and I don't even understand this, I thought everybody had to have a warrant. But in national forest in Florida, the Florida conservation officers came out and went into everybody's camper to see if there was deer meat in their fridges or coolers or whatever they had. So I think you give up rights when you're in the national forest. Well, then when I make the videos about garbage, people say, well, they should start charging and taking your license plate number. And one person even said they should track you on GPS. What's interesting is we don't really connect the dots when it comes to this lifestyle. And I've seen it a lot. Every time I make a video, people will get on board with that particular video. Yeah, Rob, you're absolutely right. We need to do something to control the pollution. Yeah, Rob, you're absolutely right. Freedom is the true sense of freedom is moving around in the BLM. Well, which is it? Are we supposed to charge to live in the BLM? Increase enforcement, rules and regulations to have these BLMs and make sure the wildlife isn't harmed, make sure the BLM stays pristine. Just watched a video the other day. The guy who's going to do the big nomadic event every year in the desert, he showed drone footage. He's driving his van into the BLM, and he showed drone footage of him driving around. And that desert was absolutely beautiful. Just pristine, not touched. You could just see it wasn't touched. No car tracks except the ones he were leaving behind. My question is when this big event is over, will it still be in that same pristine condition? Or will it be all trashed up? My experience is no matter how much you regulate something, it still gets trashed up. People leave things behind, and because people think that somebody else is going to come and pick it up. It's going to happen. Like that campground in Florida I was telling you about. It only had 8 campgrounds, 8 camp spots, 8. That was it. And rarely was it completely maxed out, yet every day I get up, I walk the campground and at least come up with a Walmart-sized garbage bag of trash. But I agree, we should do something. But in order to do something, and this is the key to freedom, in order to do something, you have to restrict freedoms. You have to. Think about it. You live in a neighborhood and you're sticking brick, and let's just say you have a junkyard in the backyard and you sell car parts. Years ago, you've been selling car parts for years, everything's fine, and then the city puts in an ordinance, says, okay, no more junky yards, no more cars older than 10 years sitting in your backyard, something like that. So you don't get these freedoms in your stick and brick, because the more people that come around, the more people want to restrict what you do. Well, and they're going to argue, your freedoms affect my freedoms. If you're going to have all these junky cars in your yard, then it's going to affect my property value. Well, the same things are happening in the BLMs and the National Forest. Your freedom to throw trash on the ground is interfering with the rights of other taxpayers that don't want the trash on the ground. And this is where I'm really struggling with folks who say, I have the freedom to do whatever I want on the BLMs because it's funded by my tax dollars. They say that all the time. Well, whoever says that doesn't realize they're not the only taxpayer. You pay a small percentage and that goes into the BLM. But the next guy who comes along and says, well, I didn't want all this trash here. I don't want you living on my BLM. Well, he's upset. So it's not government that's restricting anything. It's the people. And so if you want to pay to live in a BLM, well, that's fine. My question would be, why would you pay to live in a BLM if you could pay to live in a camp, to be in a campground that has electric and water? If you're going to want freedom, what is the freedom that you really want? If you want restrictions, then you lose the freedom. It's connected. Thanks for watching. Click like if you like the video, and happy travels.